in this case, you just, you have a bar on your back and you're just using it to gauge depth. So you just tap. So you use it as a way to ensure that you're hitting the depth that you want. So you could set it to make sure that you're hitting parallel. For example, as you can see right here, if I do this, I'm just making parallel. So if I've got a bar on my back, I tap, come up. And with this style, I don't necessarily have to sit back. With this style, I can just use my same, my knees can come forward and I can just use my same squat style, but I just let the knees come forward and I just tap, come back up. You don't ever want to bounce, but you go like this, tap, come up. And this way you don't cheat on your depth. So that's a squat to a box. I don't consider that a box squat. Now, amongst the different types of box squat, you can, to me, a box squat, you pause on the box. And the reason why is you break up the concentric, the eccentric to concentric chain, or whatever you want to call it, and you pause for a second. You will relax the hip and thigh muscles, so like the glutes, the quads, the hammies, the adductors, you'll relax these thigh and hip muscles, but you keep the erectors on. You don't relax the erectors and round. So you keep the chest up. Now, you could come down, pause for a second, don't rock at all, and then come back up. Or you can do my favorite style, the slight rock, where you come down, rock, come back up. It's just a slight rocking. Or you can do the full rock, which would be come down, lean in, and come up. And talk to different coaches and they'll all tell you why they prefer one style over another. I can make a case. Really, in the grand scheme of things, is it going to make a huge difference in terms of adaptations? I don't think so, but I recommend you try all the different styles. Now, real quick, I'm going to go over the rocking style. For me, trying to get from the side view here, you come back, and if you do the full rock, you will come back like this, but you don't ever round your back. You keep this arched, okay? So come back, lean in, come back up. Now, I used to think that because box squats involve so much sitting back, that they were very hip dominant, and I still think they're very hip dominant, especially with vertical tibia. So when you do a box squat, you want the shins vertical, and this is very hard for a lot of people. When you teach this to beginners, here's how I teach it to beginners. I actually have them get their calves touching the box, okay? Calves touching the box, and then, because I like that tactile feedback, when I've got a bar on, I don't want to know if I'm going to hit the box or not, if I might miss the box. You don't want to be out here and just wonder, I hope the box is underneath me. You don't want any fear like that. If it's touching you, you know it's there. And then you've got to reach back. So I say, pretend someone has a rope around your hips and they are pulling back. So you initiate with a sitting back motion, then you come down and bend the knees and keep the knees out. So it looks like this. Again, I have this, my clients diagonal with it. So this part comes out, they're straddling it. Initiate by sitting back, just a slight, like this. Not like, they're not bending forward at the knees. So they're not breaking at the knees, they break at the hips just slightly, and then they descend, knees out, sit way back. Now my shins are pretty vertical here, almost. It is possible to get a negative shin angle, meaning I sit so far back that my tibias are actually angled this way, like that. Okay, but I don't think you can do that with a ton of weight. And if you do it and your shins are just slightly forward a little bit, that's okay too. A lot of people just can't get the complete vertical shins, maybe due to their anthropometry. That's not a deal killer. What matters is that you learn how to go like this. So I've got a bar on my back, I come back, what you'll see with beginners is they'll want to go like this. And they'll want to have their knees about lined up with the front of their feet. So what you want to do is tell them, no, sit back more, and they'll go, no, knees came forward. So I'll sit in front of them, I'll get right down here, and I'll put my hands right here blocking their knees. Sit backward, sit backward. And what you'll see is, they'll do that, they'll sit back, and then all of a sudden you'll see them go, and they let off and they plop. They don't have the strength to control right here. But it's really, when you get the strength to do it, this is a very powerful position right here. Right here. So they need to develop that strength, and you tell them, don't plop, don't plop. And you'll see people, they'll come down and they'll plop. You don't want that, don't plop. Pretend this is made of nails, and you're trying to tap it as lightly as possible. So they come down, tap, come up. Come down, and I like the slight rock, but see how it's a gentle, soft landing. Okay, now, earlier I talked about how hip dominant this is, because you do keep, you keep the vertical shins, and you get a wide stance, and you sit back. But Swinton, a researcher, I believe out of the UK, found that this has actually had greater knee extension torques than traditional or Olympic style squatting. And the reason why is because people rocked back, but as they rocked forward, they actually rose off the box before the bar was centered over the mid-feet. So when you do a non-box squat, the bar will stay centered over the mid-feet. But when you do the box squat, people will start to rise up right here before the bar is centered on the mid-feet. So think of so anyway, what it does is it makes it more of a knee exercise and less of a hip. So it's still hip dominant, but depending on how you do it. And what I find is when I go really heavy, what I find is I end up having to lean a lot, and I lean in and then I come up. But this is such a good exercise to teach beginners. The argument with raw powerlifters is that you want specificity, specificity, specificity. So if you compete in powerlifting, most of your time you should be free squatting. But I do believe that even for raw powerlifters, they should do box squats sometimes. It's such a valuable exercise. From straight on, what I want to show you is how this looks. Notice, I do not come down like this. My knees are out, tracking over the feet. So my femur is right in line with tracking the same way as my feet. And so, right here, this is not a good position, even though my knees are out, because I'm not vertical, I don't have vertical shins. So I need to be here, right here like this, okay? So it looks like this. And what you have to tell people is you're gonna lean more because you're sitting back so far. So, if I keep vertical shins, I have to lean. I can't be upright while keeping vertical shins. I fall backwards. Now, this is everything I've taught you is for the parallel box squat, for the high box squat. This is about, I believe this is 15 inches high. It could be 16 inches. You know what? I think it's 16 inches high. And the lowest setting is 11 inches high. Now, 16 inches high works for a lot of people for the parallel position. And I'll show you with the barbell what it looks like. So, get into position. And I like low bar with these, but you can still use high bar. So, you can put the bar up here and use high bar. But since you're sitting back so much, I think it's wiser to do low bar. Keep it right around here. See that I have contact. My back of my calves are touching the box. I'm not upright like this. I have a slight lean already. I initiate by sitting back, knees out, tap, come up. Now I'm going to do a slight rock. So I'm going to come around here and show you from straight on what this looks like. So, touching. See how I'm leaning in? how this changes things. So, how can I keep vertical shins? If I'm like this, and I gotta sit back, sit back, sit back, sit back, I can't go any deeper than this. I'm rounding my back. If I keep an arch, I'd fall backwards. So you have to let the shins, I can't lift it from here. If I start lifting from here, I'd go backwards. Or I can round my back like that. That's not what you want in a squat. You want to round your back. So in the low box squat, you do not keep vertical shins. Your shins will in fact be about level with the front of the toes. Okay? So when you do a high box squat, parallel box squat, you initiate with the hips back. You think sit back, sit back, sit back. With the low box squat, you do not think sit back, you sit down. Think of sitting your butt straight down and staying pretty upright. So again, I still have my calves touching the box, and I initiate by just sitting straight down, like this. See, I just plopped. I just screwed up because my mind was used to the higher box, so I plopped. So that's bad. Again, the box is made of nails, and I'm trying to go gently. I don't like just tapping. I like actually sitting on it, pausing for a second. Pause, relax the muscles, turn them on again. I don't like the big rock like that. I like the gentle rock. So here's how it looks like with the barbell. With these you can do high bar or low bar. With the parallel I like the low bar, but with the low box squat, high bar is perfectly fine and acceptable because it's more of a knee dominant exercise. But I'll do high bar just to show it. So high bar, okay. Back to the calves are touching. Knees are out, slight rock back, tension is kept on the low back, relax the thighs and hips, lean in slightly, come on. So, I've found that my beginners, when I teach them the box squat, a lot of them don't know how to sit back. So for powerlifting, some of my clients, I'll give them 4 to 6 weeks of box squats, and then I switch them back to free squatting, and they set PRs right away. Because in the powerlifting squat, you know, the Olympic squat, you've got a narrow stance, you might have on weightlifting shoes, which elevate your heel, and you're super, super upright, and your knees come forward, you know. In the Olympic squat, you're super upright. But in a powerlifting squat, you tend to be a little bit wider, and you tend to sit back a lot more. And it's not uncommon for torso lean to be 45 degrees, and with some people who have maybe shorter torsos and longer legs, they can even lean at more of a 45 degree angle. As long as they don't round their back, if they stay rigid, you know, but once they learn the box squat, you'll switch them to free squatting, and all of a sudden they're sitting back more, and they're using their hips more. And they're getting, you see the power out of the hips. And so, I love the box squat. It's worked great for me and my clients. It's a very useful variation, but there are variations of box squats, and hopefully this video taught you a thing or two. So give it a try, and